Pregame.com.
Welcome back to Pregame.tv. I'm your host, Marco D'Angelo, joined in studio, SportsX Radio, Yahoo Sports Radio. Ken Thomson, how you doing today, Ken?
Doing great, Marco D. Just another walk in the park, Kazansky.
We're going to take a look at NBA action. We're also going to have a baseball video for you today as well. We'll be taping in studio. Taking a look, Friday night, Toronto at Brooklyn. Ken, we talked about last week, and we were wrong in Game 1 with Toronto. I was wrong, and I don't want to put you in there. I had Toronto Game 1. I thought they were getting a cheap number at home. When we did the video last week on Friday, line was 2.5. There was even a couple rogue twos around town. Ended up closing at 4. They bet it up late, 3.5, and a couple places 4. Toronto loses Game 1. Brooklyn, then, all the pundits that everybody that was riding the Brooklyn bandwagon down the second half of the season.
Bridge,
yeah, they're jumping all on and say, we told you. And then Toronto comes back and gets Game 2. To me, what I took away from Game 1 to Game 2 is, maybe I didn't account for it enough in Game 1, is this is a young Toronto team as far as playoff experience goes. They haven't been significant for how long. I think they were maybe a little bit overwhelmed in Game 1 with playing on the big stage.
Yeah, there I was talking, DeMar DeRozan, he's the man. He couldn't hit anything in the Game 1. I was with you. I got one of those rogue twos, as you would call them. and then he came to play Game 2. And he is, when he plays well, they play well.
Absolutely. He had 14 in the first game, really a non-factor. And then in the second game, he goes off. I think he had 30 in the second game. And to me, I think it was just a case of nerves in the first game. They played their game in the second game, and really, you give them more credit for the second game because unlike a team like the Clippers that were down, 1-0, playing at home, that's a veteran team with superstar players that have playoff experience. They were able to answer. This was an inexperienced team with their backs to the wall, and they were in a tight game. They weren't in a cakewalk like the Clippers were, and they were able to withstand that pressure of Brooklyn and get that win. Now moving forward and going to Brooklyn, pretty high line here. Were you surprised when you saw this number come out, or is this what you expected?
I made it 4. So when I saw the 5, was a little higher than I anticipated. But I know they're anticipating at the Barclays Center a great crowd. And here's the thing. The Knicks are not relevant. They're not in the postseason. So Brooklyn has the New York media there. They have a chance to take, just same with the Clippers in L.A. No Lakers in the playoffs. They have a chance to take center stage.
Provided nobody gets caught with pine tar again in New York.
One of these days, it's unreal. You get away with murder and then got to go back. OJ, got to go back to the Palace Station.
Ken, one of the things I wanted to ask you about, and again, it's a sample size of 3 days, so let's not get too excited about it, but it's out there. We've talked about it last week, the zigzag theory. And if you followed the zigzag theory just blindly so far, we're taping on Thursday night, so we don't have the results of Thursday's games. But so far, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days of Game 2s, following the zigzag, you're 6-2, possibly 5-2 with a push, depending when you bet Toronto in Game 2. But as I said with Scott on the radio today, if you bet Toronto at -5 in Game 2 and pushed, you're not doing your homework because you could have had that game for better of 24 hours at -4. Mm-hmm. If you waited till post to bet that at 5 and get a push, shame on you.
I agree. The zigzag theory, I know a lot of people like it. I'm like one of those guys. I know I'm old school, but I'm going to look at every game as its own entity. That's just the way I am. I'm same thing when I see trends, 19 of the last 20, and I know it's crazy, man. Streaks, I'll follow streaks, especially baseball during the season. And know you're going to lose once, but I'll take a shot at those because it's a long season, and we see them year in, year out. But trends, I'm not the trendiest guy. Mark Lawrence throws a ton of them to me, and it's because his database goes back 40, 50 years, and it's mind-blowing sometimes.
It is. And the one thing, and I'm with you, you got to take games on their merit because I didn't blindly take every zigzag game. I was on a few of them, but to me, in theory, I like the zigzag, and the reason I do like it is because we're in the playoffs. You're playing a 7-game series. You've got teams that, with the exception of Atlanta that's got a losing record, these are all winning teams, okay? So if you do something right in this game, you're the winner in that game. What are you doing after that game to prep for the next game? Because everything you did worked. So your game plan is going to be pretty much the same. Maybe a tweak here or there, but if you won, you're not going to mess with a lot of stuff.
It's not broke, don't fix it,
right. That's the old school. I wish they would do that in baseball with starting pitchers like the old days. But now, if you're the losing team, Ken, you're looking at the situation. You're looking at, okay, what we didn't work. We got to go back to the drawing board. We got to change our offense. We got to change, we got to come out high on the pick and roll. We got to do this, do that. You're the one that's making changes, so you're the one that's coming in as the unknown factor. And that's why I do like the zigzag theory, in theory, so to speak, but we have seen it in the last several years where it's tailed off, and part of that has been because Vegas has adjusted the lines because they know everybody. There's not a radio show here in Vegas this week that I've tuned into that at some point in time talking the NBA playoffs has not talked about the zigzag.
Yeah, except for mine. I'm just not into it. And
I was on Monday. I mentioned it.
Oh, there you go. Oh, that's right. Okay. I don't think the Houston Rockets, Chicago Bulls want to hear about zigzag theories right now.
Well, they're zigzagging their way right out of the playoffs.
All right, Marco D'Angelo, this is your play. I have no clue who you're going on this game, but it's your play. Let's make it official.
All right.
I want to hear it, man.
All right, I'm going to give Toronto a pass in game 1. I feel they were a little bit overwhelmed by the situation, nerves, tightness, whatever. Brooklyn's the veteran team, and we all heard it down the stretch. Brooklyn was a team that might have been dumping a game or two to get into the slot that they were, so they didn't have to avoid playing one of the tougher teams, and that tougher team they would have thought was the Chicago Bulls. Well, they might have made a mistake there because look at what's happened to the Bulls with Washington so far, down 0-2. Be careful what you wish for. They wanted Toronto, they got them. I think this team can play them well. I also look at this game and I look at value. I think the 5's too high here. I think Brooklyn is getting bet and the line set on them based on the name and coming back home. They stole home court in game 1. Toronto, their goal now has to be the same as Brooklyn's was. Take one of the 2 games. Both games that they played during the regular season in Brooklyn were tight games, and Toronto was able to win one of them, and one of them was a 3-point loss, 3 or 4-point loss. Now you're getting 5 points here. I think they can stay with Brooklyn, and I give them a good shot to win the game. DeRozan showed up in the second game, and that's going to be a problem for Brooklyn. The other part I like about Toronto is that whenever DeRozan is scoring, it opens things up for the other guys as well. And you get that balanced scoring. And Brooklyn, I think that'll give them some problems. I'll take Toronto. I'll take the 5 points. I think it's too much. I think this one goes right down to the wire. I see it as a 1 to 3 point game, Ken, and I'll grab the points.
There you go. Some teams just relax a little bit more away from home, especially young teams. Dallas, I heard them say, gosh, in fact, Nowitzki said, I wish Game 3 was in San Antonio because we play really well on the road.
Yeah, you don't hear that too often, right. But yeah, I was shocked when he said it publicly. A lot of them may be thinking it, but when you say that publicly, that puts a seed in the back of everybody's head.
Go.
All right, we're going to come back next. Ken's going to give us a free play. We're going to be back on Saturday. We're going to take a look at actually it's a Friday night video, Houston and Portland. Can Houston pick themselves up off the mat after losing both at home against Portland? Or are we looking at a sweep? Ken's going to tell us next. Pregame.tv.